Madeline Fudge, we've got Conservative commentator James Delingpole, Conservative member of the European Parliament Dan Hannam, and certainly not a Conservative, Alistair Campbell. I think I saw you in the early hours of this morning.
You did, on the
You're
boat.
looking better on it than me. Do you get the sense that there's the makings of a deal being done here? Maybe not a formal one, but at least an informal arrangement?
Well, it's obvious that David Cameron wants to sit down and talk to Nick Clegg, but I think for Liberal Democrats, they'll have spotted two very, very big holes in what he was offering. One is on Europe, where he's making clear he doesn't really want to change his policy on Europe at all, which I think would be very difficult for the Liberal Democrats. And there was not much there on electoral reform. And I think that Liberal Democrat activists and campaigners who've been campaigning for the Lib Dems around the last few, in the last few weeks will actually have heard Gordon Brown making very, very strong message on electoral reform, which, as Min Campbell said in the earlier discussion there, goes to the heart of what the Liberal Democrat vision for Britain is.
Is Gordon Brown still in this game?
I believe that Gordon Brown, I agree with Jeff Hoon, I think all the three leaders have actually conducted themselves extremely well today. It's a very difficult moment for the country. The country has voted, probably expected to wake up this morning with a clear result one way or the other. We haven't got it. I can't remember anything like it. I don't know if you can. And I think that what the leaders now have to do is genuinely to try to stand back from their own self-interest and try to work out a way forward. But I think there's certainly a possibility, I would have thought, that Nick Clegg will see in what Gordon Brown was offering there, and I suspect he'll be feeling... Look, I do feel sorry for Nick Clegg. He's between a rock and a hard place. He didn't do as well as he thought he was going to. He's probably extremely disappointed about that. He now feels that he's sitting there with David Cameron making one set of suggestions to him as to how he might conduct himself in the next few days, Gordon Brown making a very different set of suggestions, and ultimately Nick Clegg can decide in a way who the next Prime Minister is.
Is he still in the game or not?
I believe that Gordon is, yeah.
What does he do next then? I mean, is he the king in the castle, just sitting there on his own, while these two rival peasant armies I think cozy up to each other?
No, I mean...
What should he do?
Well, he's the Prime Minister. As he said in his statement in Downing Street, which I thought was very measured and statesmanlike, Alistair Darling is having involved in discussions today, potentially making very big decisions about the European economy. Sure. He has to carry on doing that.
But what does he do as regards putting a government together?
In the meantime, he has to let David Cameron and Nick Clegg have those discussions.
Okay.
And I think that people will understand there is a government there. That's how our constitution works.
All right. James Delingpole, how far can David Cameron go and keep his party?
I think it sounds to me like we're going to pay a terrible price for David Cameron's failure to win a working majority. It looks like our countryside is going to be carpeted with wind farms to appease all the greenies and the Lib Dems. I'm glad that he's decided he wants to keep the one really good Conservative policy in his manifesto, which is Michael Gove's education reforms, and it's good to see that the Lib Dems are sympathetic to that, because I think that could make a difference.
What happens if he goes further than just another committee of inquiry, which I suggest will not placate the Liberal Democrats, on electoral reform? Does he split the Conservatives wide open on that?
He already has.
He already has, Alistair.
I think he already has. I mean, the buzz is there are already senior Conservatives who are telling him he cannot go further than he's going there.
He's got to find a fudging formula, hasn't he? I don't think they're going to buy PR, but they might go for some compromise formula.
What do you make of it?
Well, I don't think we should treat electoral reform as synonymous with PR. There are lots of ways in which we can ameliorate the political system here. Recall votes, referendums. Well, hang on. There's a lot of common ground, I think, between what a lot of the Lib Dems have said about dispersing power, democratising power, more power for local governments, shift in power from the executive to the legislature, which I would very much go along with. Like Douglas, they were ideas...
Would you go along with PR?
I think that it is not the top thing, but I'm always and everywhere in favour... Andrew, I am always and everywhere in favour of referendums. And the great thing about referendums is that they're very often the basis of your...
because both sides are going to win. And it said, do you want PR or no? Would you vote or not? Would you vote yes or no?
It depends on the system. Right, I'm certainly not one who says our current system is rotten and any change would be better. I can see some improvements. I could theoretically see a better system, but until we've actually got a concrete proposal on the table, I think it would be silly to come out and say that. I must just disagree with one thing which Jeff Hoon and then Alistair Campbell said, which is that they're all in the game, they're all behaving in a statesmanlike way. I'm not sure, I'm afraid, that that's true. I don't want to be churlish, but I'm not sure that is true of Gordon Brown. You know, the umpire has raised his finger pretty comprehensively, and to be in the crease saying, I'm not moving
let's stick with Mr Cameron, because that's the dynamic for this afternoon. How much further, if at all, can David Cameron go to try and get some kind of arrangement with the Liberal Democrats?
I think the main point he made, and this has got to be true, whatever party you're in, is the critical thing is our financial crisis. I mean, we are months, maybe weeks away from being Greece.
So that
our deficit is going to be bigger than theirs next year, right? So whichever party you're in, we have got to do something to bring the overspend under control. And I hope that there will be patriotic people in all three parties who will understand that there are unpopular decisions that will need to be made and that we will make these decisions collectively.
Do you feel that there is the makings of almost a formal coalition there with the Liberal Democrats, or is it more likely to be an informal arrangement? We agree together with a number of these things, we'll do these things, we'll try to avoid doing some things we don't agree about.
First of all, obviously that decision is going to be made way above my pay grade, and it's going to come down to jobs and so on.
No, I know. What do you think?
Sure, I'm not going to be paid.
Give us a view.
And therefore, I can be impartial about it, since I can't get a job, since I don't sit in this parliament. But I think there is the basis of putting together some kind of entente on civil liberties, on the economy, and on localism and direct democracy, which, if you like, is a kind of electoral reform, which may not be changing the votes. Look, when people talk about changing the political system, they don't usually mean rigging the votes to help this or that party. They mean shifting power from MPs to the rest of us. You know, the long parliament has failed, and we want renewal.
Alistair Campbell?
I think there's another point I would make here is that I think people will have a pretty fair sense of where the centre of gravity in the Labour Party is with the new Parliamentary Labour Party. I think in the Conservative Party, I think a lot of the new MPs coming in are going to be maybe on the Daniel Hannan wing of the party, which will make life quite difficult.
They're Thatcher's children.
I think a lot of them are, and I think that will make life difficult for David Cameron. And likewise with the Lib Dems, as anybody who's ever campaigned against them knows, they kind of tend to be parties within a party. So I think it's hard for Nick Clegg to sort of get a homogenous whole that then goes into these negotiations. So I think all of the leaders are going to find these next few days difficult. But look, I don't accept this idea that Gordon Brown doesn't have legitimacy to be the Prime Minister now, because nobody won the election outright.
No, he's still the Prime
Minister. No, but he's lost it more badly, Alistair. The worst defeat for 80 years. The worst defeat for 80 years. To say I'm staying is a bit much.
Hold on, Harry. You had your chance. I want Alistair Campbell here. If some kind of arrangement does come between the Liberal Democrats and the Conservatives, either formal or more likely an informal kind of agreement, who goes to tell Gordon Brown the game's up? Is that you and Peter Mandelson?
No, I think Gordon is a very, very intelligent guy.
Have to put your tin helmet on?
I think Gordon's he's a very, very intelligent guy. And I think, look, we all know that Nick Clegg is currently in a very, very important position where ultimately, in a way, he can decide an awful lot about the future government. And I think Gordon will be able to read a message as clearly as anybody else.
I'll take it that you're going to give him a nudge, though, in these circumstances. Let's go back to David in the studio.
Thanks, Andrew. Now, Dudley North has got